Welcome back to Unfollow the Herd Podcast, where my mission is to make you become the 1%, and really make you break away from the pack and follow the herd. That's what everything I talk about in here. I have a pretty cool guest with me today. We work really closely together. He's actually was a coaching student of mine I was at a terrific billion-dollar companies, multiple billion-dollar companies, great job, and had the golden handcuffs of connected to an 8 to 5, 8 to 8, whatever these startup companies do. He's got a large family of four kids and a wife at home. He's got a finance major. He's worked for, like I said, multiple large companies. But he also was ready to break away. So he's in the middle of his age of his family career. And at MAK Capital, we're consistently growing. So we made a connection, and he's more of an integrator with MAK Capital today, meaning he's the chief of operations. He does everything behind the scenes. He runs the company. He's very finance oriented. Jaden Duclos, thanks for coming to the podcast.
Yeah, happy to be here, man.
How in the heck did you decide to come to a small company from one of these really large companies? Because I think there's lots of people out there, lots of people that watch this or listen to this, and they're like, all right, I got a 8 to 5 job I hate, or it seems to be a thing. Why did you decide to leave a $1 billion company for more of this is only 5th year of MAK Capital. How do you make that move?
Yeah,
and why?
I think I've always had like that entrepreneurial mindset, right? So I like the fast moving stuff. Some of the big companies, it's like you work hard, you do a lot, but you're not involved in like the big decisions that actually swing or what's moving on at the company. So, I think I've always had that desire, that interest. I have worked at a smaller company as well, and so worked at a big company, then a small company, then back to a big. So, you could say back to a small company again. And I definitely like that atmosphere, that vibe a lot more, right? It's a lot more, you can get fast paced at some of these other companies, but depends on the department, right? But you're really just kind of moving forward and doing a lot of things that don't really steer the company. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things is being able to have an actual impact. And a company like MAK Capital, it's like, we do quite a few things where I've definitely got an impact. It affects the projects we're working on. It affects the P&L and the growth for that year. So.
Yeah. Well, you hear me say it all the time. It's like, you finance guys. It's like, usually it's got to be black or white and very to the T on the way things are going. You come work for a guy like me, and there's not that many employees at MAK Capital. There's a lot of my construction company, but I didn't have, I don't know. I think you wrote your job description, and you know what I mean? Like that's not something Mark does. And we didn't really know how it was going to go. We knew your strengths, we knew mine, but I think it was real interesting that without a lot of structure, you were able to move. You got 4 kids at home, you got house payment, you got stuff going on too. You're a young guy and lots of ambition, I could tell. But how do you overcome that? You know what I mean? I think so many people don't know how to overcome that. Yeah. So I don't know how you thought about that.
I think the first thing is like I had a big desire, right? Like okay. I knew what I wanted, and I knew that's something I've always wanted to do. Lots of people know that they want to leave the W-2 or the corporate lifestyle, but like I sincerely think some people, they say that, but they're more comfortable in that W-2. So I think the first thing is you've got to really want it. And then me, you could say I'm super risk averse, right?
Right.
Finance
most finance guys are.
Finance background, everything's in my spreadsheets. My kids are 2 years apart to the dot,
To the dot.
Yeah. They're within like 3 weeks of each other. So, and so I think for me, like, I wanted it so bad that like I built up my nest egg. I didn't have, my lifestyle wasn't increasing with my salary. I was always building that nest egg. And then even when I made the switch, it's like I didn't know what I was going to be making anymore. Might take a huge pay cut from what I had,
Yep.
So it is hard to leave those golden handcuffs. But I did everything in the book. I had, no debt, I was keeping my expenses low. I was house hacking, and so like it became, I made it, I got it to the point where it became dumb not to take a risk, because it's like, all right, well, what are you going to do? You're just going to be house hacking and doing, living off
Yeah.
crumbs forever,
Right.
it's like, so, but I got it to that point where it's like, okay, at this point, it'll be dumb not to make
Right.
take some kind of risk. Not that it was risky joining, but
Yeah.
risky compared to a
Well,
lot of people leaving a W-2.
Yeah, for sure.
So
You mean you did the Dave Ramsey method, it sounds like. And I think I remember when you're like, I think I got about like 7.8 months worth of without taking income in.
Yeah.
That's how long I can live without my.
it was a little higher than that.
Was it or whatever? I don't.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a specific number. It
Yeah.
didn't even matter. It could have been 3.1 months. I was like,
Yeah.
you knew like I could know by then, or I could just go back to the tech space or
Yeah.
whatever, this finance tech space that you were living in. I thought that was funny. So most people, maybe listening, watching, are not going to have a spreadsheet broken out. There's people I talk to that don't even know what a budget is. And sometimes that can be your biggest problem. So I'm sorry if you're there. I'm not saying it needs to be perfect like his to the penny, but it needs to be. Dave Ramsey has a lot of good points out of the beginning, right? If your expenses are larger than your income, it's a problem, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So fix your current situation might help you commit to your future situation much better. Just put yourself in a better income spot. But we're not here to talk about finances and personal income. But I think so many people lack the commitment that you did, even if they were in that perfect commitment, high paying, getting some equity at $1 billion company that's exploding, and to say, I'm committing to something a little bit riskier, and you're betting on yourself. I mean, really what you did.
Yeah. That's the key. Yeah. It's like, do you bet on yourself? And like you said, you have to put yourself in a spot. Everybody has different comfort levels, right?
Right.
My comfort level was like, yeah, I didn't want to have me or my family lose our house if I made a mistake and I only had 2 months of savings, So I had that, 2 years worth where it's like,
Okay.
it would have sucked to have I had different levels. It's like, you've got savings in the account, you've got 401k, you have equity in the house. And it's like, you had different tiers of like low risk, high risk, where it's like, how long can I make this last? And for me, the low to medium risk, was, that 1.5 years, 2 years mark, where it's like, I wasn't going to lose my house.
Yeah.
And so, so it starts off, but it took me a while to get there. It's not like I had this vision and I said, I hate my job. No, I liked a lot of things I did, but it took me years and years to save up those nest eggs, right? It was a long-term goal that I had.
Well, you're a 30-year-old guy, right?
Yeah.
And
31.
31,
Yeah.
4 young kids. And yeah, we'll maybe get into that in a minute. You can tell them all about it, but it's crazy actually that I can explain your situation to the outside looking in. They're like, how do you make that kind of decision with that much burden? You got a lot of risk there. So, all right, what the heck did you learn working at MAK Capital then? You've worked at all these huge companies. You're probably exposed to things that I've never even heard of in the finance world, but MAK Capital, we're raising millions of dollars. We're doing development deals. We're acquiring deals. Very small team, and I'm just curious, from the big position to what we do every day. Like, what have you learned? What do you think, we're working on real hard?
I think one thing that we're just really good at is like persistence. In today's market, it's like not a lot of people are getting deals done. You talk to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, I want to find a house that cash flows. And it's like, well, good luck. There's some things out there, but it's like, I'd say a lot of the stuff that we start off with, it just doesn't pencil, like, to begin with. There's deals, you'll bring over to me and I'll be like, yeah, Mark, I don't think this makes sense. And you're like, no, it's gonna make sense. We're gonna make it work. And then, just persistence, effort, working everybody down, getting the deal done. Like, I think that's something that I learned. It's like, yeah, don't just take anything at like face value. It's like, if you want a deal to work, you have to make it work. You can't just find it. It's not just going to land in your lap, know? And so I think all of the projects we're working the banks, we're working the subcontractors. It's like, we're working everybody to make a deal that's a good deal and that pencils in today's market. Obviously, if the market ever changes in our favor, those deals will look phenomenal, but they're pretty good in today's market. And I just don't think you're seeing that right now. There's a lot of people out there and it's like, they're struggling. Even other operators and other sponsors out there, they're struggling in today's market because they're trying to refinance at today's rates, and now they're just having issues.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of the things we're doing now, I mean, and that's since I've been joining with you guys. Obviously, there's probably other time periods, but I think that's something that, you know, I've learned personally. And I mean, you can apply those same things in your personal life, but obviously a lot of us are, you know, business minded, and that's kind of what we're looking for. I mean, if you're listening to the podcast, I mean, that's the stuff you're looking to do. And it's like, I mean, that's what I've learned.
I think, like, you got to negotiate everything. I think if you're in development, you're not negotiating and you don't have a creative mind on how to solve. Again, finance guys, you're going to see black and white and you're going to say it just doesn't pencil. Put it down. How do we make that different? I mean, you can work interest only into your projects. You can work, there's all these different avenues on how you get there. And there's times you can't get there. Like, I'm not saying every deal works out. But we have found success within our knowledge in construction, our vertical companies, and, you know, raising money for LPs. We really know what they want, they're after. So, you know, we raise money with their money, but we know that their goals, and we do not let a project go that we don't think that can hit their goals on it. So, I always think of, like, you know, Elon Musk, or he just comes to mind. You know what I mean? And we were watching last night. We went ice fishing, and Jaden's from Utah, so we got to enjoy about 18 below yesterday. Balmy.
Little colder than Utah.
Yeah, a little colder in Utah. Yeah, but you're watching the Elon Musk Trump files on. I don't know. We were watching the TV at night and just kind of catching up on whatever happened in the day. And a lot happens every day right now, politically, with the administrative change, but it's Elon Musk. And I always think it kind of relates to what we do, is that we pivot fast and we work it fast. We're working at much faster speeds. Most people take months to do things or years to develop things. I mean, we're doing things that people take 6 months. We're trying to compress it into 2. And that takes a lot of persistence and a lot of, I mean, we're after it 24/7 all the time. And most developers, I'm not going to say they're not, but we're just turning these timelines into a shorter amount of time, and we're working it all at the same time. It can be a little stressful at times, not going to lie, but I think Elon, he can solve 2-year, I mean, look at some of the things he's done with SpaceX and the satellites and driving cars. And it's like, we've had NASA and all these government programs with hundreds of years on him, and he's came in and solved everything in 6 years, 10 years. Yeah. It's completely different. It's like, so it's just like thinking out of the box. And that's what I think Elon does well. I think that's what we're trying to do well. You know, any deal can get done. It's just how you're going to have to get it done. And
and I think you know, that's one of the things that, obviously there's many things that make Elon successful, right? But he's almost taking, like, the small company approach, where it's like, you can be agile, you can move quick, you can make decisions. There's not all this red tape and bureaucracy and all that stuff. You get those factors at a lot of small companies, and as they grow, they get the red tape and all that, and then they lose that, you know, that capability to do those. But I mean, that's why Elon is super successful, because I think he has that same mentality that, like, some of these smaller, more agile companies has, and he just pushes right past the red tape and he gets stuff done. Yeah. You know?
Well, red tape is the number one problem why we have a housing problem, because it's so much regulation, and impact fees and EPAs and wetlands and Corps of Engineers, and you got all these layers of people that take months to get back to you. And there's 2 people that work at these places that hundreds of developers are trying to get something solved, can't do it because they don't even get responded to. And these are all government ran, usually it's government ran programs, state or government ran programs that just hold up all this red tape. Look at, I mean, all the fires in California. They're not going to build homes. They can't get a home in the ground until at least 3 years from now. Yeah. Because they have to go through all the red tape and building permits and everything. And it's just sad, man. It's like, that's just costing us all a lot of money and a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking to some of our friends that were developers last night, and it's like, they had a project going and they thought it was really far along, and they'd sent all the reports, thought everything moved along. And then it's like, one of the analysts in the department's like, oh, I never saw the report, so we haven't been working on it for the last 2 months. And it's like, well, Now things are delayed. That's real cost. The holding cost is
hundreds
crazy.
of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So it's like little things like that. That's just red tape, you know, at some of these agencies. So it's wild.
Yeah. I do like the administration is actively, I think that's the only way we get back to affordable housing is you got to remove the tape. I'm a construction guy deep down. I do not know how they're going to lower building costs at this point. And, you know, deporting people is probably going to drive labor up because you're going to have less of that low hanging labor around. So if you don't remove the red tape, you're going to be in an astronomical problem on trying to solve the housing issue. I haven't seen that one on how they're going to solve it yet because it's a big one without just dumping rates. So it's going to be super interesting.
Yep.
All right. Tell me a little background around you. I don't think as many people know you as much as I know you. So give them a little history on Jaden.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up small town. It's big town now, Lehigh, Utah. And, it used to be like farming cows all around, you know, but yeah, grew up, you know, we weren't a very well-off family. You know, I grew up, my dad was, you know, working the normal W-2 job, but then we would clean carpets on the side. So every day after work and school, you know, since I was, you know, 4 or 5 years old, we'd go and clean carpets in the afternoons, you know, in the evenings. You know, we were working Christmas, some stuff. But my family was awesome. My dad's awesome. You know, Rudolph's driving by, you know, on Christmas. Even though we're working, you know, we made it fun, you know. So had a fun childhood, but we definitely were not well off that way. And so, you know, I kind of learned from a young age that I really wanted to change that. I was always more centered around, you know, numbers and finances and all that stuff. So that's kind of always been wired into me. And so I remember I was in 6th grade asking the librarians, you know, hey, can I read business books? And they were laughing, you know, they just thought it was a joke. But I had that knowledge, but I just had nowhere to look. And so anyways, I, you know, had that internal drive to be successful. So all throughout school, I was always, you know, working hard, getting good grades. You know, that's how I viewed success was good grades, you know, so then you can get into a good college. So I, you know, ended up going into the college that was, you know, a great college in my mind nearby. You know, it's difficult to get into, you know, and then I had to decide, I always wanted to do business. I always knew I kind of wanted to do my own thing eventually, you know, I had that, again, I feel like I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset. But, you know, I didn't have the best connections to ask some of those things. Kind of my fault too. I should have probably realized that sooner than I did. But, you know, ended up getting into a good school, tried to get into the most competitive program there was, which was finance. And then, so I got into the finance program in the business management school at my college. And then I tried to figure out what's the most competitive jobs out there. Well, in finance, it's investment banking, you know, so I worked really hard. Had a counselor told me, you'll have no chance getting there. You should apply at some of these other companies. So then I took that as a challenge. Right. And so, at the time, you know, Goldman Sachs was probably one of the more competitive investment banks, and whether or not it was better or not, it was just the fact that it was more difficult to get into. That's what like drove me. So then I went into was pushing hard for Goldman Sachs, and I got the job, you know, and then I started working the job, and I'm like, oh crap, what have I done? You know, you do a lot of really cool things at those companies. But it's just, it was not what I wanted to do. Again, I always knew I kind of wanted to do a little bit more fast, loose, you know, more exciting things. I didn't always want to work for somebody else doing something that was just the traditional corporate life, right? And investment banks very much, they grind you through. They do, yeah. And so, I mean, career-wise, you know, that was kind of my path, was just always go for the most competitive thing, and that's always what I did. And then I realized that's not where a lot of the most successful people are. They're not chasing up that corporate ladder.
How did you notice that? I mean, you noticed it. But
it's not like you're making fantastic money. It's not like you're making $200,000-$300,000 at an investment bank, you know, there. So it's like you're working 70 plus hours a week, and you're not making that much money, and you can see the path. And a lot of the times in these finance jobs, you can see what a lot of the other employees are making, you know. And so if you're in a corporate finance role and you're in finance, you can see the salaries of everybody all the way up to the CEO. You know, I don't know if many people know that.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like you know the path, and you know what they make, but you also can see what they do, what they're working, and how they answer to other people. And it's definitely, some people, they love it. It's definitely for them. Other people, I would put myself in the other category. I just knew, I was like, yeah, I don't want to work the next 30, 40 years doing that. You know, if I'm going to work that hard, I know I could do, you know, bet on yourself.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like I could bet on myself and do much, much better and have a better lifestyle too with it. Separately, you know, been married 10 years, have 4 kids, met my wife in high school sweethearts, proposed to her, you know, I went on a 2-year mission for my church, proposed to her the day I got back, you know, and, the rest is history.
Yeah.
You know, we've got
Shout
4
out to
kids.
her that she lets you come to North Dakota for a few times and a few times a year and watch all the kids.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, it's a business trip. We're going ice fishing, but it's a business trip.
Yeah.
She knows exactly what's up.
She's no, yeah. We're doing good. We had some fun, for sure. No, that's awesome, dude. I think, like I said, your story through finance. There's thousands of people that live through finance, and it's basically, I mean, everyone says you climb the corporate ladder. They incentivize you to stay around and try to get a promotion to something else and work you tooth and nail, basically, to climb it. Mm-hmm. And the pinnacle in that life would be the CFO, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can go that route, and you can still end up starting your own company, right? Like, I didn't know what I wanted to start or anything like that. Still, you know, it's like I want to do real estate. That's what I figured out. But you can still go that path, and you can still pivot. And some people, they love it. I mean, they don't want to do the fast and loose lifestyle where it's like, you could be doing really good one day and lose everything the next, you know, like that's not for everybody.
No.
And I was not built that way either.
Okay.
I like have to force myself to change, you know? And so, but yeah, that is the pinnacle. You know, you can be CEO, president, and you can make really good money doing that stuff. And it's stressful too. You know, doing those jobs, you're managing that. You know, you hear stories of some of these other CFOs and stuff at other big companies that, you know, didn't do well, and it's challenging still. But different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now you're the spreadsheet guru. Is that what you learned from college? Did everything you learned in college implement what you learned for Goldman Sachs? And
I mean, I learned it a lot at college, but it's pretty much like anything. It's like you go to college, there's a lot of good stuff you can learn, but it's also more like a networking thing today in my mind. I mean, I learned way more on the job than I ever did at college. You know, as far as like what I actually use today, you take some Excel classes and stuff, but it's like you'll learn way more on Excel actually just doing projects, you know, like getting stuff done at a real company. Yeah. You'll learn more in a week.
Yeah.
You know,
it took us like 2 months to build like the perfect performa where we thought every chart's in there, and we love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wasn't building it. I think you probably looked at my spreadsheets and you're like, we should start over.
Well, I think that's how we kind of got into the connection of working. We were looking at a deal, you know, I was doing the coaching with you or whatever. And then you had sent me a deal and you're like, oh yeah, take a look at this, you know, and then I analyzed it with one of the spreadsheets that I just made on the side. And you're like, oh, I think you were like, oh, you might actually know what he's doing here. So
I just never know. That's how I test people. You know, I guess coaching you was not, people hire me to coach them to tell them how to break free of that and like basically get to that commitment level standpoint. I think we were actually going to go do wholesaling with Pineda. Yeah. We did that for a minute, and then we realized that, you know, because you're a finance guy with some sales history too, so like you're not scared to talk to people, right? Where usually finance, it's not like communication's their strongest attribute. Sure, typical, I would say.
Yeah, accounting, finance. There's definitely some finance that are solid. You know, they know how to talk. You know, but those are the guys that move up pretty well. Okay, you know, otherwise absolutely.
So and I just think, you know, tested you a little bit, and we did some wholesaling and got some leads, and I think what was happening too, once you decided we're going to do the wholesale, because then you decided, all right, we're going to work together on this wholesale company, and then you were part of what you wanted, building something up, whatever, and then we realized that the leads and the amount of work, you're probably still dealing with some wholesales today, but I haven't talked about, you know, we didn't make any money do it. It costed, you know, me money and time. That was my investment to him. Basically money. He was doing all the time with the wholesales, but we just didn't, I'd say it wasn't worth the efforts as it was such a competing space.
Yeah. And what I would say, like, sure, it's probably a harder time in the wholesale space today, but I think what we started to realize, I mean, we had a lot going on the MAK Capital side.
Right.
And so like, you knew I had like Excel skills. So like we were doing wholesaling, but like even from day one, like I was always doing some spreadsheet stuff on the MAK Capital side. And I think it just, we just had so much going on, and we just realized like our skills lined up. We had so much volume and stuff that was going on where it's just like, why would we make X dollars here? And you can make good money on the wholesale side versus the projects we're doing are in the millions, and we've got the skills and the knowledge to do it.
Right.
And we can increase the volume by just turning all of our time towards that. Yeah. I mean, that's where our strengths are. And so that's kind of when we made we did the wholesaling thing for a short period, but it turned pretty quickly into let's focus on these $1 million deals.
Yeah. You start just evaluating. Okay, I'm gonna do $40 million in development, or I'm gonna sell $100,000 in wholesales, and we're gonna gain millions of dollars of equity in cash through the other avenue. It's like, let's do this. And I think we started gaining some momentum as well.
Yeah.
And then we were able to value it. So anyway, there's some backstory on MAK Capital and the whole. I think it's interesting to people though, the whole process of that, and we've evolved even the last, I don't know. I mean, we're working on deals like crazy, raising millions of dollars for luxury storage is the big thing that we're in. Raising LP money. We're putting together the deals. We're putting together the financing. We're putting together the contractors. We're doing civil and architectural plans. And this was with a team of, 4 or 5 of us is all we have. Also trying to keep shooting media and like this to help educate you guys. So it's like, we wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen at a small level, but it's pretty fun. It can be a little stressful, but it can be fun. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way now. But it took 5 years to get there, and that's where most people would melt down and probably not keep going.
Yeah. Got to keep grinding.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of effort to get to where you got it. So
yeah, well, it's just you learn so much, right? I was a concrete guy, and then all of a sudden you're a contractor, and then all of a sudden you're a commercial contractor, and then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, I want to build real estate, and then found luxury storage, and people were wondering how to invest, and everything just evolves over time. But it's I think the most important piece you tell anybody is that keep them vertically stacked. Seems like anything we vertically stack within our, if it's property management or the, which I hate property management, but we've got a guy with Trevor. He'll be on the podcast at some point. So it's like, he loves, that's his aspirations, is really making things perform and managing them and growing it. And you got kind of people in every scenario, or every area we need. You need a politician. I always say that in a business, in a development business, you need a guy, a COO on the back end, really handling. And there's a lot of moving levers you're pulling every day. I'm the entrepreneur, like behind a lot of it, and kind of casting a little bit of vision. And you got to have someone managing the portfolio, but you don't need a team of 50 to do that.
Yeah.
We're doing that.
But you do need a solid team. I mean, I think of, our team members that we've got on right now, and it's like, maybe they're not the entrepreneur today or whatever, but like all of them have like very similar vision with what we've got going on at MAK Capital. They all understand we work hard, we work fast, we get a lot done. Yeah. But we have fun too. Yeah. We joke around, we have fun, but it's like when we've got deadlines, our team's grinding. Like we're getting stuff done. Yeah. We hit those deadlines as best we can.
I think that happens why we've added great team members with all like the same, because I've had finance guys like they don't jive with me. They don't understand what I'm trying to do. But I think through social media or like podcasting or any of that, like a lot of these people think similar. They have maybe completely different skill set managing properties and even Thomas, the intern we have with us, and it's like he casts the same vision, wants the same things, and it's like if you can find those people, and I think social media helps me broadcast that. Like we're looking for a construction developer that understands how to build things cost effectively, how to manage construction projects while we're building them, because we can feel like we're going to buy 500,000 square feet this year. We need people to help us build that. We can't do that ourselves. Even though I own the construction company, you have to understand development style work, which is just different than commercial buildings and bidding.
Right.
So it's just a different, but I think social media helps us find the right people that like, I think pretty much where everyone came from for this, and like understand that way. So there's a tidbit for you. If you're listening to this, trying to build your team, maybe post it on your social media and maybe talk about things that you're doing. I always push you to do Instagram stories. I think you downloaded Instagram because of,
Yeah, we were in Vegas and like, do you have an Instagram? I was like, no. I was like, I've got Facebook and LinkedIn though. We're like, dude. You maybe download it right then. I added 100 people,
Yeah. I just spoke in Fargo to a meetup, and, it's like, obviously we have a big LinkedIn presence and we got a team for the social media. Like, the social media is an entire different thing. Can you do it by yourself? You can, to a certain level. But I think it's important if you're hiring or you're doing something, it sees your culture, it knows what you're about. They know more about you before, like LinkedIn, where I have coaching students come from. Mm-hmm. It's like they already know who I am and what I'm about and what I'm doing, and then they just ask for help. And they just want to ask questions to somebody that's doing it.
Yep.
Like currently. But it's a powerful tool for helping you find the right employees, find the right investors. I think even that, I end up having better investors today because they watch my media. They know I come from the concrete world. They knew I do construction. They know that I'm what I'm about before they even have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
So the conversation just goes so much different because they're aligned with what I want.
Yeah, it's way more efficient. Your filter now, not that they're bad investors, but the investors that aren't super interested in that stuff. Because some people are like, no, I'm straight single family. That's all I do is single family.
Right.
Or I'm straight multifamily. And then there's, solid guys that love the storage model. And then, we've got this luxury self-storage model. Right. And so it filters out a lot of those people.
Yeah. And I think even their personalities are more like mine.
Yeah.
Instead of like the hard finance, black and white, like guy that wants to drill you on every question and only invest 50 grand. And it's like, they would filter themselves out purely through social media, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think you and I were talking in the ice house because we didn't catch a lot of fish.
Don't tell everybody that.
Yeah. Apparently, if there's a high pressure and it's cold out, the fish don't bite.
Yeah,
so
minus 20 degrees attributes that.
Yeah. So we had lots of time to talk, but I think even people are having Brandon Turner, Ryan, like all these big names in real estate are having troubles raising large amounts of capital, and we're actually finding some success within it. And I think we were talking, you said it's about probably the brand.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer it's the brand. I mean, again, you can think of numbers and all this stuff all day, but it's like, what people want to know, because I always tell people I'm the biggest spreadsheet guy there is. Like, I love that. It's like, you want to see my spreadsheet say 22 IRR? I can make it say that. I just have to tweak some assumptions that the, not well-educated individual is going to really tweak, So it's like any sponsor can really say what their IRR is going to be, but it's like what it comes down to is, do they have experience? Do you know the person? Do you feel like and that's where you've got a lot of your social media content where it's like, I got to know you before I even had a call with you. I got to know you. I listened to multiple of your podcasts. I followed your LinkedIn stuff for months, and then I reached out. So it's like, yeah, I knew what you were about. I knew your personality. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be fake when you've got hours and hours of podcasts. Right. Like, you catch those guys. Like, you can tell when they're like faking it, you know? And so, I think it's your personal brand, and I think today that's more important than it ever has been and will continue to be more so. Yeah. I truly believe that Tesla's cool, but Elon Musk everyone's following Elon. Yeah. Right? Like, fair. If Tesla does a post, it's like, oh, cool, some car or whatever. And right. But if Elon posts, everyone will dive into it because he's up to something. Yeah. And what is he up to? But I think, you Google my name, it looks much differently than it did 2 years ago. You literally go Google luxury storage, you're going to see
it's all things of me, right? And and you just want to dominate those spaces. But it's super important. I think, like I said, we get better investors that understand us and like they know what we're about. We get better employees. I think this can help you in your business is really what I'm getting at. And you should take it seriously. And if you don't know where to start, you know, you can DM me below and maybe I can help you through coaching or something. But it's very important. It's a job. Like I take it as a job. Like that's what it is. It's my job to deliver this message. It's my job for MAK Capital to expose our brand. But yeah, it's very important.
It's a lot of time. I mean, I try to do a 20th of what you do, just on like LinkedIn stuff. And it's just like, oh my heavens. Like it's
so many posts, dude.
Yeah. It just takes forever.
50 posts a week.
Yeah, and you gotta put a thought into it because you don't just want to push something out, you know?
Right. You gotta provide value.
People will call you out on it real quick too.
Right.
Know? So
there'll be the first bad comment in there, like, bro,
yeah.
what are you doing here?
But it's tough to stay consistent. You know, things get busy, and it's
gosh,
how are you gonna get your post out tonight? You know, so it's like you gotta be freaking thinking of posts and drafting stuff up at 9-10 o'clock at night after the kids are bed. You know? So
if you're a CEO or like you own a big company or something, it's like this is a team. Like this isn't something you do yourself. This is literally probably 2 people you need to hire to like control that. But I promise your brand will go a lot further with your face on top of that, and you might find even more employees and more opportunities too. So
right,
cool, dude. What's your superpower?
I feel like it's the combination of analytics and, you know, being very analytical, but like also being personable. Like, I mean, like we were chatting about, I think some of the most successful people in finance or accounting are those that have those crazy good analytical skills and they're just really good at what they do, but they know how to communicate. I mean, nowadays you have to be good at communicating. And so like in those top level positions, if you're not a good communicator, you make it up there, you don't last very long. People just get pissed at you because they don't understand what you're doing. You can't communicate to them what you're doing. And so I feel like that's probably my superpowers. I've got those analytical capabilities, but I like to communicate. I like to chat with people, you know, like I like going to offices and like I like interacting with people. I don't like to be in my bubble. So I think that combination is probably my superpower personally.
Right. Working from home probably kills you then.
It does like, a little bit.
He's in Utah. We're in North Dakota.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I usually like coming into office at all the other companies, you know, it's okay, you know, stay work from home one day. That's when you get most of your work done.
Yeah.
If you're like a hybrid employee, for me, it was like those days I worked from home were like my days I got my work done because I'm always talking to other people and like where they're asking me questions and stuff. And I enjoy teaching them and doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
But straight work from home is difficult. Yeah. Lots of Zoom. Oh
calls. Man, Zoom. If I had $1 for every minute I was on a Zoom call or Teams call.
Yeah.
What I do like about it is that I can get meetings done much quicker. It just compresses time. Mm-hmm. You almost don't meet anyone in person.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing nowadays. I mean it's like you could be 10-15 minutes away and people are like, oh, I'll just jump on a Zoom. You know,
yeah.
Let's say 15 minutes of driving.
I think
so
like
it's just the norm.
Yeah. Or like we host a webinar of some sort, whether I'm teaching someone about real estate or luxury storage or doing, you know, showing our investments to LPs, whatever it is. It's like, you just get them all and then it's like, they're more comfortable with that than getting into a room with all the other people. And then they're not even probably all here. So it's almost impossible.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, it compresses time. So it's a good tool. We do get sick of it.
That's why we go ice fishing.
We're millennial. Yeah. Yeah.
When it's 20 below.
Yeah. We get to figure out, how tall is actually Jaden on the Zoom cam? It doesn't seem that tall, but then now he's actually 6. Well, he must be 6 feet. What do you think about the administrative change right now, and what are you most excited about?
I mean, we were chatting about this the other day. I mean,
we went deep and wide on that.
We were also joking that today just feels like a long SNL skit, you know?
Oh yeah,
with all the stuff going on, it's hilarious. But I think the thing I'm excited about, and I think a lot of people are excited about. I mean, you listen to other people like All In Podcasts, like all those guys, you know, it's like there's a lot of left-leaning people that are also really excited. May not be excited about everything, but I think the general consensus, like, people feel like something good is happening, as far as like they actually feel like change is happening. I mean, we've known about the deficit, and the interest on the deficit is just constantly climbing, and we all know that it's bad, but like in everyone's day-to-day life, it's just like hasn't been a big enough issue for it to affect day-to-day for most people, or they just don't understand that concept yet. And I feel like now people actually feel, and myself included, feel like, wow, they're actually doing something that's changing, what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually going to have an impact, and we're only, several weeks or a month into this, and so the fact that we're feeling that, who knows what the true impact is. I think there's a lot of work to go ahead, but I think that's probably what I'm most excited about with this new administration. And I think they got some good people in, and it's hilarious watching Elon Musk like dancing as he's talking about like cutting millions of dollars. I mean, some of that stuff's hilarious, but I think behind it, for the most part, a lot of good things are being done there, and I think a lot of people are happy about it too.
Yeah. I think if you're leaning blue, leaning left, whatever, I think the All In podcast is a legitimate podcast. I mean, one of the most listened. These guys are all billionaires that understand our economy. They all have $1 billion companies. I mean, they get it. And they get it even from the highest level of politics. They all know Trump. They all know Biden. They all know, they know them all. And I think, just to solidify what you're listening to, if you don't listen to All On podcast, you should listen to it. These guys have some high level information that we wouldn't have access to.
They're just well connected. I mean,
right.
You're a billionaire or close to it. You've got some connections.
Yes.
And you've got access to a lot of information out there. Yeah. And you must obviously be pretty smart and intelligent yourself.
Right.
Then you get these guys who are talking about it, and they have different opinions. They'll get into it. They get heated sometimes. Yeah. And then they'll be like, "Love you" at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. And they'll go deep into politics. They're not going to love everything that the new administration does. I think they're just. I think I always hear Elon say common sense. Like we can't run at a $2 trillion. It's just simple things that everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, no one wants to see.
So how do you
no
get
one
it
wants
back?
to pay tax dollars and see it go to waste.
Right.
Everyone should be able to agree on that, and I think most people do. So when you have an agency, regardless of how funny the name might be, that's
Doge.
Yeah, that's aimed to doing that. I mean, most people are happy about it. Most.
Yeah. And no matter which way they think just taxing the billionaires will pay for the deficit. No, we will just get worse off as a country if we're going to rely on that as the only source to pay off our deficit. And it'll never amount to even close to that anyway. Most of these billionaires are all the guys that took all the risk for this country to make it as prominent as we are. Yep. Why the heck would you tax them out of the states, basically? You're just pushing them all out. They would leave.
Those guys are smart. They know where they make the most bang for their buck.
And like I said, in this podcast too, the two of them lean left. So it's like, it's so interesting. So hopefully you guys were able to listen to that. I think there's a lot of context on why everyone agrees that the administrative changes need to happen. Right. Whether you like it or not, it's just kind of, it's removing the regulation and making it fair again. And, they move fast. Holy crap.
Yeah, they move fast. Still have a lot to do. A lot of unknowns still, but I think, they do move fast.
Yeah. What's your, all right, we'll wrap up. What's your biggest problem right now?
Time. I think time is the tough one for me. Just the stage of life I'm at. I mean, I've got 4 kids. They're all relatively young, 6, 4, 2, and 0, 2-month-old. And so it's like, I'm trying to balance, everybody can relate to this. You got to try to stay fit, I go through some periods where I'm way more fit than others, you got to stay fit. You got to be a good dad, a good husband, good, you got to provide, regardless of whether you're male or female. It's like, if you're a parent, you're kind of in that boat. And so for me, like, I'm really at the stage where I've got to be more efficient with my time. I was just chatting with my wife the other day, and it's, we've got to drop our oldest girl off at school at kindergarten,
Oh yeah.
and versus her taking the bus or whatever. And I mean, back and forth, and you've got tumbling or whatever, gymnastics, and then you've got preschool for the other kids. So it's like that, all that stuff adds up real quick, for parents. And so you're trying to do all these things. And so we're trying to be more efficient with our time. We're trying to grow things as well. So, but I think finding that balance and just really, I mean, I think I've got more to learn, but I've gotten much better at it. But again, still work in progress. That's why it's still my biggest problem, but it's just being really efficient. Like when I log on, if there's certain things that I need to get done, push all distractions aside, notifications, all those things, they call it deep work sessions, all those things. So like doing those things, like you really can be more efficient than you are today. Yeah. I mean, even the most successful people, they understand there's always something you can do better to become more efficient. I'm having to try to be more efficient in how I spend time with my family, how I spend time with work. So that's probably my biggest problem. Yeah. I just need more hours in the day.
Yeah. And you're in an interesting part of life where it doesn't get any better once your kids enter sports. It's just more time that you need to spend that way.
You're in that same boat, but I'd say you're busier than I am. I mean, you're always on calls. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. I have to be a master delegator. I realize that I'd love to do all these little tasks. And then I realize, like, why am I involved in, like, I shouldn't be the one making this decision. It's not worth my time to do this and analyze this, or, why I hire people, more or less. But I have to find those because there's certain things I have to do, must do in order for it to proceed. At the end of the day, I call a lot of shots on different things, and I just don't like to be, when I did block scheduling, like you're explaining, where I just worked on social media, 1 hour, everything's off, focus mode. For us Apple guys, I know you finance guys are all Android users.
Microsoft
or whatever.
Android.
Yeah. And I run off Mac, so but when I did that, I was super productive because I shouldn't say they're all fires, but there's all these to-dos, right? And these are all stirring in your brain. You're like, email comes in, respond. Okay, back to work. You really can't get anything done. Usually, I always have my best times, my most creative times. And when I often find deals is on Sundays. Like if I'll be watching football or it's just calm at home, right? Like there's no outside people pressing you typically.
Right.
And those are my most creative times. I'll come up with social media stuff. I will do performa work, even though I don't make the performas, but I'll have like, how do we get a deal? Like I'll just think about a problem. And I'll just kind of like, I'm open-minded. I just have no outside distractions, and I'm just like focused. And now I got options going on in my head. And then I got to bring them back to you to say, oh, does this make sense? Or, you know what I mean? So that's like, unfortunately, it's Sundays. And then when I'm on Allegiant airplanes, because they don't have Wi-Fi. And there's just like 3-hour window where like, if I'm going to Arizona, I'm like, and like, if I don't have kids with or anything, I'm just going. I can just like shut everything down, put my AirPods in. And it's like, I have nothing, no distractions. My most productive time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so true though. And you will find in your life, like, I need to go on more trips just to have them 3 hours of focus.
Right.
Otherwise it's always like, boom, call this, that, whatever.
But some of those strategies, like obviously doesn't come naturally. Like you have to force yourself to get better at it.
Oh yeah.
Force yourself to delegate. Like I think that's, what issue I have is like some things I don't want to delegate. I like doing my things.
Don't hold it in the crystal ball.
Yeah.
If you shouldn't be doing it, you push it down. And then that you have to learn though. You don't just get that. Mm-hmm. I always do every final performa forever. It's like, in your head, right? Like,
I want to.
Right. So it's like, but you tee other people up, teach them, get it to a point. It's like, okay, I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
But it's the last 10%.
Yeah.
And the more you can do that, train better people, it just extends you. And all of a sudden you're getting more production done and you're not using all your time. But I'm always creating something while I'm like I built a construction company. Oh, let's build MAK Capital. Oh, we got MAK Capital on the spot. Let's do CK, or property management. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let me start doing social media. That's a whole nother business. Oh, and then let's add, and See with Elon, I mean, he's fully involved with the government right now, but
Right.
he was fully involved with Tesla. Then he was fully involved in SpaceX. Then he was fully involved. But
Yeah, any one of those takes
then he
up
goes
all
and buys
his time.
Twitter. He's like, I need something to do. I'm going to go buy Twitter and call it X and fire 3/4 of the employees and make it profitable again. And all of a sudden he's running with government, doing crazy things. So it's like you got to get it to a spot though where it's running and it's profitable, right? But that could take 5 years.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to do that, but you got to find people you can delegate, show, and keep going. So
I haven't. I'll be embarrassed to say this, but I haven't read "Buy Back Your Time" yet, and I think that's my next book I need to.
Yeah, Dan's got a gift. Dan Martell, the guy who wrote the book, he's got a gift of writing process. Like I got his executive assistant process.
Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, just like planning a trip. It's like, here's my itinerary, here's my flight schedule. Like this is the exact template I want sent to me. That more like
right
3 days before the trip, and then here's how you check my emails. Here's what you tell me at the end of the day. It's like a spreadsheet of like every day what they must do and how they must do it. I can't do that though. I don't have like the time to sit down. You know what I mean? That's most entrepreneurs listening to this is like, I ain't gonna do that, bro. So it is eye-opening looking at a person who is able to get to that level of detail. And then he hires people that can execute that.
Yeah, very good at
I'm
that.
terrible manager of people. I'll be the first one to admit it. That's why I hire people to do that.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. I just spit out things to do and then expect them like done in 7 seconds. That's, maybe that's not normal, but that's the way I run.
Yeah.
All right. What is your biggest fear?
I mean, I'm a big family guy, so I mean, I could try to make it political or try to be smart about it, but it's like, no, my biggest fear is, I mean, when you're a dad or husband, it's like when, you go on a trip like this and it's like, I hope everything's going well with them, so that's your biggest fear. It's like, your kids get sick. That's like the worst thing as a parent. Like you could say lack of sleep or whatever. It's like, no, when your kids are hurting or, I think that's probably my biggest fear. And I think that today it's even more compelling. I mean, when I was a kid, it's like my parents would just send me outside, come back, around dark, around dinner time, and the sun goes down. Nowadays, you can't do that as much, or it's not as easy. You've got to really be careful about how you create that environment, different locations, right? And I feel like I live in a good neighborhood and stuff, but nowadays it's just a little different. So I think that's probably my biggest fear. But then now I think of the more professional answer, and it's like going into the future and looking back and being like, wow, I did not push myself, or I really should have taken that risk. That regret. I mean, you talk to a lot of old people and, are near the end, and they'll tell you their regrets because they actually want to share that knowledge. They want to share with you what they feel like they could have done better. And it's like a lot of time, I was just chatting with a mentor of mine the other day. Really awesome mentor. He's a CFO, president of a company, and, his thing is, I really wish I would have bet on myself and started that one business. And he probably, I wouldn't say probably, I think he would have killed it. I mean, super smart guy, but he just never took that. He did really well in his career, really well. But that was his regret, that he just didn't take the bet on himself, because he had the idea, he thought, and it wasn't like it was a creative idea. He was just going to, he was probably going to, start teaching Excel courses and program. Lots of things are out there nowadays, and some of them are big, When I worked at Goldman Sachs, they've got people and they have these Excel training programs and they put you through it, and those guys make bank. They're like consulting, professional consultants,
for
on all
sure.
that stuff. And so he could have probably made a killing with that, and just never took the risk. So I think that's probably one of my other biggest fears, is going into the future and looking back and be like, wow, I had the skills, I had the talent, I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Too scared.
You're the 80-year-old guy on the bench at the park wishing you don't want to live in regret.
Yeah.
Or laying in your deathbed and know you got 2 days to live, and it's like, I could have done more.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in my mind, the biggest risk is that right there. I mean, what's the worst? You take the risk and then you failed. I think a lot of people, myself included, are just too afraid of failure. It's like, no, that's just part of it. Just accept that you are going to fail. Right. And then just move past it. It's like, you're going to feel better about it if you took the risk and failed than if you never took the risk at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Alex Hormozy talks a lot about that stuff, and it always hits home to me. Just like he's always like, whatever, Princess Diana, all these important people will die, and you will forget about them in 30 days.
Right.
And think about the legacy they made. Whatever you're doing in your life, you failed, this, that, it doesn't freaking matter. No one's gonna care. And so, no, that was good, man. All right, last question. What does unfollow the herd mean to you?
Yeah, don't do the average. Don't be average unless you want to be average. But most people will tell you they don't want to be average. Yeah. And so I think, going back to what we were just chatting about, don't have those regrets. If you've got something that you want to do, just go and do it. Like take that risk. Don't just do what everybody else does because that's what you were always told to do. I mean, again, my situation, great example. Get the best grades you can. Try to get in the best school that you can. Then get into the best program. Then get the best job that you can. And that's not always what's best. I mean, that's literally the path I did. I did the best I could do in all those things, and I always got it. I had the skills, I had the talent, and I got it. That's probably the definition of following the herd.
Yeah.
And I instantly became unhappy. I knew it's not what I should be doing. Mm-hmm. And this is actually probably one of the first times in my career where I'm like, this is actually what I want to be doing. Mm. It's not like I was bad. It's not like I didn't enjoy those other companies. Worked with awesome people, super smart people, really enjoyed my time with them, learned a lot from them. So I'm not saying like I did not enjoy that time, but it was not what I felt like I should be doing. Mm. And so don't feel like being successful in a certain area just because people say it's successful is what's successful for you. Like, I think that's to me what unfollow the herd is. Don't be average. Do what's successful and exciting for you.
Yeah. I love it, dude. I love it. All right. Well, you better tell people how they can follow you so they can you can get over 200 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, I might have hit that on Instagram. Barely, maybe. We'll see. I'm not really. So, I mean, I am on Instagram, but LinkedIn, Jaden Duclos,
okay.
That's probably where I'm most active, similar to yourself.
Yep.
But yeah, that's probably the best way to follow me, LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, Jaden, I appreciate it. I know we work together a lot, and appreciate you having on. I think it's a good understanding of where good things can come from too. So appreciate you having on, dude.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Year ago, this would have been, my dream. So this is awesome doing all this stuff. So appreciate it.
Here we go. You took a risk. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks.